Coach Watch ends. Good morning, Jeremy and Joe. Joe Brady is the Bills' head coach. The Bills announcing that yesterday, his introductory press conference. We've met him before, but never with this title. That'll be tomorrow at noon. Of course, we'll carry it here on WGR. Mr. Sal Capaccio will be there. Sal, good morning. We'll get into the Coach Watch if you want to offer a thought on one of the other two things on the menu today. We haven't gotten to the second one, Joe. One, Sabres win again. All they do is win. And number two, Bill Belichick kept out of the Pro Football Hall of Fame for a year. Maybe potentially suggested it was orchestrated by Bill Polian to keep him out.
Which he did deny, but there were reports
He denied,
that
and then he said he was 95% sure he voted for Belichick to get in. So a little drama with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So good morning, Sal. Take whatever you'd like off of the buffet.
Well, good morning to you guys. And let's start there. I'll give a brief little thought on each one. All right, so when I saw about Belichick not getting in the Hall of Fame on the first ballot, I immediately thought I should tweet out, guys, I am not a Hall of Fame voter. Please don't blame this on me. I did not do this because I have been the number one person on this radio station for quite a while, I think, saying and believing, and I still believe this, Bill Belichick is not the greatest coach of all time. I do believe he's the most accomplished coach of all time. I've said that. There's a big difference. That doesn't mean I don't think he's not great. He definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. You know why, guys? Because the Hall of Fame is about accomplishments. That's what it is. And he is the most accomplished coach ever. So, and people have always asked, well, who's the greatest? And Joe, you guys know I've said this before. I hold Joe Gibbs up there as the greatest ever. And I say it's because he won 3 Super Bowls with 3 non-Hall of Fame quarterbacks, went to 4 of them in a 12-year period. Now we can quibble about it. That's fine. There are other coaches, I think, who are also, up there as doing great coaching jobs. But no doubt, Bill Belichick not getting into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot is pretty ridiculous. He should be in the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. And the fact that Bill Polian is at the center of this is kind of comical, actually. He's a guy that, remember a few years ago, he said the Bills' offensive line was old and unathletic, and the Bills took a lot of exception to that. Eric Wood, they broke the drought, and then they tweeted out after they broke the drought about, hey, we're old and unathletic or something like that. I think that was that year that happened.
Maybe Polian thinks he's some steward of the Hall of Fame because I remember he made the case why Terrell Owens shouldn't be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Because he was on too many teams, and if that many teams got rid of him, then he shouldn't be a Hall of Famer. I thought the Hall of Fame lost the plot with that one. So,
and remember, he also suggested Lamar Jackson should be a wide receiver.
That's right, he did do that too. So
in the NFL. Okay, number 2, before I get to, I have a second one. Congratulations, Jessica Pegula. After the Sabres game last night, I turned on ESPN, and there was a double overtime college basketball game, waited for that to end, and Jessica was in the quarterfinals of the Australian Open, and she is playing some amazing tennis right now, and she's the 6th seed. She beat the 4 seed, Amanda Anisimov, as I believe how you say it. And anyway, she beat her in straight sets. She's in the semifinals for the first time. So that's a pretty cool story, obviously, with Jessica going into the semifinals of the Australian Open. And then before that, I did watch the Sabres. I mean, from a personal standpoint, to see this gap right now between the Sabres and Leafs was really cool after last night and seeing them buried. But guys, I mean, I keep saying it. I can't believe this is real because it is. This team is good. They're good. They're solid. They're solid in every area. I just think that the Olympic break sucks right now, as excited I am about it, that they're going to have to go through this because they're riding this, and let's just keep it going, man.
Yep. 103-point pace for the Sabres right now.
Amazing.
After their win last night. All right, Sal.
All right.
The big news, Joe Brady, introductory press conference tomorrow. We react today and tomorrow, and then on Friday or late Thursday, we'll have more to say based on what he says and this process. Your reaction to finding out that Joe Brady was the choice?
Surprised the Bills went in-house. I did not think they would. Now, look, there's always been a piece of me that has always said, hey, if Josh Allen really endorses Joe Brady or anybody else on staff, then obviously they're going to get a good look at it. We always knew that Joe Brady would, have he got interviewed first, that he would be considered. My reasoning for saying I was surprised they went in-house is simple. When Terry Pegula said at the podium that they hit the proverbial playoff wall, and that is the reason for moving on from Sean McDermott, I felt that signaled a change that he was thinking in the organization in direction and voice, that they would bring someone in from the outside, not someone a part of the staff that has also hit the proverbial playoff wall. So that's why I thought that messaging was, okay, there's going to be someone from the outside. Joe Brady was the first interview they had here. They never interviewed anyone a second time. They went through a lot of first interviews. They never got to Clint Kubiak because they couldn't. So who knows if that would have been something on the menu this week. Probably would have at least talked to him, right? That being said, we also knew, because Terry Bagula said it, Josh Allen was going to have a seat at the table in some capacity. He was going to be involved in the process and part of the team to, select the new head coach. And when you hear that, you have to know that that means Joe Brady, Brian Daboll, people that Josh has a relationship with, are going to be squarely in the mix. So to get to this point can't be super stunning, but I did not think they would go in-house. But this tells me that it doesn't have to be Josh picking the coach, but he certainly can't be against it, right? He's got to endorse it in some way. And that's where I land on Joe Brady. Now, as far as temperament, as far as personality, as far as head coach acumen, all those kinds of things, I think Joe Brady is an incredibly energetic, positive person. And I think that played really well for him here. Because for 9 years, Sean McDermott, who is great at all the details and all of the things that we talk about that made Sean McDermott a really excellent coach, McDermott also has a very different personality than Joe Brady from my interactions and personally with them. As you guys can imagine, and maybe yours as well. Sorry. And that is this, that Sean is very, very, Sean is grinding. He's always on top of things, every little detail. I think, when you're around Sean McDermott, when you are around the organization and he's the head coach, there's always this pressure of making sure every little thing is buttoned up. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's his style. I think Joe Brady brings in a new, hey, positive, high energy, let's go. I'm not saying he's not in on the details. That's not at all. But I think that there's maybe a bit of a relief of, having that type of personality versus what you just worked under for a lot of pressure for a while. And it remains to be seen how that manifests itself. That can be positive. That can be negative. And I think going forward here, the Bills probably wanted someone in the building who said, look, maybe there was so much pressure that how it mounted over the last several years because of McDermott's personality and not getting there, that we needed a different kind of personality in charge of the organization. I do think they are different in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. We'll find out how it works out. I'm a little sensitive to this entire point because it sounds like training camp will be Diggs Part 2. Oh, we're so much more relaxed now. Everybody's more relaxed, and the pressure is off. This team is constantly wanting to kind of alleviate pressure, but they can't ever do that because they're supposed to win. So It'll be interesting. Can they live in the pressure more comfortably? It'll be kind of another version of that, it seems.
I respect that, Jeremy, and I'm not saying that there's not pressure on this team. Of course there is. I think Joe Brady has immense pressure to win next year. I think Josh Allen has immense pressure. I mean, when you say that he's going to be a part of the process, and then you choose the guy that's on staff that's been his offensive coordinator, well, now it's okay, well, that's obviously a guy that you endorsed, and hey, it's on you too, right, to get to the next level. I do think there is a lot of that.
Mike Garafolo went out of his way to point out that Allen was not in on the finalists or the decision. So he sat in on the meetings, but Mike Garafolo said he did not contribute to getting to the finalists. So we don't know who the finalists were, I guess, if it came down to the finals. Either way, so Allen was there, but he didn't pick. So whoever wants us to know that has told Garafolo that.
But there's no way any of us can sit here and think that if Josh Allen said, I don't want him as my head coach, that he would be, right?
Oh, right.
I mean, that's a different point than what's being made, but I don't think that can be.
Maybe. And this, if I'm going too cynical, you let me know. The number one thing the Bills have working for them is the belief that Josh likes the pick. And it should be pointed out that 3 of the 4 guys we talked about the most, no matter what happens, we would have said Josh agreed with it. Davis Webb, Brian Daboll, and Joe Brady. The Bills continue to use Allen as their most valuable weapon, and in this case, the court of public opinion, he's used again as he must have liked this idea. And we'll see what he says. I'm sure he'll say he likes it. I'm sure
he's going to talk too at some point.
Yes,
I think.
Right.
I imagine. I don't know this. We did not get a word if he's going to be a part of Thursday.
But the other thing we always know Allen to be is a good soldier who never steps out of line, never says anything. So the Bills have this thing where, hey, if we bring somebody close to him, he'll be good with it because he's good with everything that we always do. They give him nothing at receiver, and he'll say, I've got faith in these guys in this room. 3 guys go out with injury. They bring guys off the street. He's like, I know these guys are going to do the best they can. He never rocks the boat. So, again, it's a little bit of a cynical take on it. I'm sure I would be of the belief he supports it. But the Bills have to know anything that they do that is connected to Allen ends up looking better, and he won't step out of line and ever cross them.
I understand that point. We're going to hear from him at some point, I think. Like I said, it could be tomorrow when Joe Brady speaks. It could be down the road when he did not talk at locker cleanout day. The word was after that, at some point, once the new hire is made, we will hear from Josh Allen. And we can formulate our own opinions about all of that. And those are all fair points you're mentioning. And again, I just want to circle back to what I said earlier because I want to make sure I put this in right context. I'm not saying, going back like you said, well, you go to training camp and, we're just so relaxed. Maybe that is the messaging that comes out. I do think, though, that, over 9 years, there was the thing some people would say about Sean McDermott is he is so dialed in on the details and so much like that. It's a forest through the trees thing sometimes. And maybe Joe Brady, maybe there's going to be things he misses with the details because nobody's like Sean McDermott on that, right? I mean, this is a guy that literally years ago is a story that Josh Reed told me about, being at the owners' meetings and someone telling him when Sean actually opened up his calendar and had all his day planned out in 15-minute intervals, right? Like little things, like he's so dialed in on that. And there's a forest through the trees point here. And maybe it's now of, hey, you know what? The bigger picture, we're going to concentrate on this or that and the other thing, and we can see things a little bit differently through a different lens. So I'm not trying to say positive or negative. I just think it's a different approach. And maybe that's what you're looking for in the organization. There's also the point of continuity, right? Which is, okay, I just said I thought they go out of the organization. Well, you're also late in the process here to hire the next head coach. So you get somebody in the you get somebody who's in your building who you're okay with, obviously, because you're hiring them. And then that, okay, there's going to be some changes, but it doesn't have to be a mass overhaul because right now we just can't be doing that because we actually have a good team and we just got to the second round of the playoffs again. And we have this really high ranking offense. So let's not really try to trash everything here. You know what I mean? And maybe that's a part of the thought of it.
Yeah. Sal, what do you make of the part about the alignment between the coaching and the player personnel being used as something that Brady nailed? Because that on the heels, I think, of the reporting about McDermott questioning the roster behind closed doors and also kind of doing it in public during press conferences this year gives the impression that, well, Brady's not going to question the roster, and that's part of why he was hired.
It's really, really interesting. So I think there's two ways to look at this, which is what you just said, Joe, which is, okay, well, he's not going to push back on the roster that he has, and he's going to be more of a good soldier and fall in line because there was reporting that Sean McDermott, obviously wasn't happy with some of the things going on in the roster. I also take it as, is there something that we're being told here that there are scheme fits that really weren't happening? It was square peg, round holes. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Sean McDermott has this defensive scheme that he uses, but the players that they put on the roster, maybe someone's telling you should have been used differently, right? Or even on the offensive side. I'm not really sure. It's really interesting. That could be the case. And I don't know that to be the case necessarily, right? Like you go out and you draft Max Hairston. How about Kyer Elam as a really good example here? And I know that I'm not saying Kyer Elam would have worked either way. He obviously didn't work in the NFL. But when he was drafted, what was the talk? Why did you draft a guy who has man-to-man skills, but you play a zone defense? Is there something to be said for that particular piece of it, which is they just one side of the organization and operation wanted to bring in people for certain types of scheme and belief and vision, and the other side, the coaching side, said, no, that's not what we do, and that could never be on the same page. Is that being told to us here?
Yeah. It all kind of gets to, like specific to Elam, whose roster is it then? Like everybody wants to claim that the good players were mine, the bad players were his. The players that did work are mine, the bad players are his.
Well, that's going to change, right, Sal? Like if there was any, and I know you dealt with this, so like Bean just drafts the guys that McDermott wants, or like it's the other way around. Like it was always what's really the roles of both people on this pick and that pick. Whereas now, I think because the structure is different, right? Like Bean said that the coach is going to report to him. That because that's the case, like I don't think that debate exists much going forward. Like it's going to be more Bean's roster, Bean's pick, and maybe we're debating less of like who actually was in charge on a certain selection.
Yeah, listen. So this gets us to the Jim Leonard thing we haven't talked about, which we definitely can here. But this point, and the reason why I brought that up is I'm thinking about this, which is okay. So his first order of business is reportedly maybe targeting Jim Leonard for defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. What does Jim Leonard do? Where did he come from? Jim Leonard played for, yes, he was in Buffalo, of course. He started his career here, and then he came back to Buffalo. But really what he's known for in his playing career is playing on a Rex Ryan defense. I mean, a really super aggressive defense. And then he coached under Vance Joseph in that defense, who the last 2 years, super aggressive defense that's broken records as far as sack totals in the National Football League. I'm thinking, going back to what I just said about, scheme fit and all of that, did Brandon Beane say, look, I have invested a ton of resources in the front seven. We still can't get home. Maybe it's, why? Because we're not doing the things that this front seven should be doing with the personnel to be able to get home. So and then Joe Brady sees that and in alignment with Brandon Beane says, all right, I'm going to get a guy who can make that work and get home. You know what I mean? And trying to fit that together. Maybe that's something, because I think Jim Leonhard is a pretty big departure philosophy, thinking about what it might look like, right, where he's been philosophically, is a pretty big departure, it seems like, from what the Bills have kind of been doing on defense over the last 8-9 years.
Yeah, everyone seems to like the Leonard idea, Sal. They'll have competition though, right? Because there are multiple teams trying to get him.
I think so. I haven't seen that this morning. Have
Dallas.
you seen that?
Dallas has been after him as well. Yeah, be interesting.
Yeah. So I'm sure it is. Just like, the Davis Webb thing comes out where they fire the offensive coordinator. He's got a bunch of, opportunities.
Yep.
And, if he goes to these other places, he'll probably call plays. He comes to Buffalo. I'm not saying that I haven't even seen the Bills connected necessarily with Joe Brady after he's been hired, but he wouldn't really call plays here. He wouldn't in Denver anyway. But sure, I mean, Jim Leonhard could be a guy that goes somewhere else. But I just think the representation of a guy like Jim Leonhard should be telling us something.
Yep. Sal, we'll be listening. Tomorrow press conference, we'll carry that live. We'll talk with you, I'm sure, tomorrow and Friday as well.
Yeah, and then today at 10 o'clock I'll be on, and I'm going to have Brandon Krisztal from Denver. We're going to talk about Jim Leonhard a little bit. We'll talk about Davis Webb and the fallout in Denver of what happened last Sunday as well.
Very good. Thanks, Sal.
You got it.